Unashamed, the Recovery Podcast. Where we are breaking the shame and stigma of addiction and recovery, one episode at a time, by having real conversations about real recovery.
And hello, recovery family. Welcome to another episode of the Unashamed Recovery Podcast. I am your host, Josh, a recovering addict that's celebrating 20 years, celebrating recovery from a 20-year porn and sex addiction. On today's episode, we bring you another guest to share another story of hope for recovery and overcoming addiction. And at the center of what the Unashamed Recovery Podcast is all about is breaking the stigma and breaking the shame of addiction and of recovery. And we do all that by having honest and having real conversations with real people in real recovery, like our episode today. It is a proven fact that we heal once the shame is gone, and shame dies when we share in safe places. And I hope that this podcast is a safe place for all, for those who share and for those who are listening. There is healing in sharing our secrets and our stories of addiction, trials, and our powerlessness, and even more healing in hearing how others recover through their own stories, or like our guest today, sharing her story of how she overcame addiction. And like I mentioned, we do have a guest with us today. My guest is Katie. Katie, thank you for taking some time out of your day today to stop by and to talk a little bit of recovery with me and the rest of the recovery family.
Thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem, Katie. Now, Katie, before we dive in and we start to unpack your story a little bit, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. Give them just a little bit of a background and just a little bit of a context to the person that you are and to the story that they're about to hear.
Okay, so these days, I am a mom. I'm a wife. I have 3 children. I've got 3 cats. I live in the middle of Baltimore City in a row home. I love being outside and just, being somebody that's honest, being somebody that's willing, and somebody that's open. I just love life today, and I wake up every single morning saying thank you to my higher power for waking me up, because there was years every single day I'd wake up and tell him to fuck off because I didn't want to be awake, and it would kill me.
Man, that's powerful there. That's truly powerful. That's a dark place to be, and to come from there to come where you're at now, that's something.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. My story is pretty intense.
Well, hey, I'm ready to hear it. And Katie, it's funny how me and you got to talking. I saw some of your posts on, I think it was Instagram. And some of the stuff that you were just sharing on Instagram. And I was like, man, I've got to have her tell her story. I knew just from the little bit of bits and pieces that you were putting on Instagram, I knew you were going to have a very good story. And so, Katie, as we move on and we get into your story, like all great stories, and all great books, they all have a beginning. So what does the beginning of Katie's book look like? What is chapter 1 for you?
Chapter 1 is basically showing me as a young child. I have 2 amazing parents. I grew up as an only child, and I grew up in southern New Jersey, where we had a giant house and a huge amount of land, and I lived in the woods. and I spent most of my time alone, with myself and my thoughts, running around the woods, making forts, you know, climbing trees, riding bikes. It was the time, in the early 90s where, I could run around with some friends and disappear into the forest, and no one would question where I was. It wasn't a scary time. It was, I lived in a pretty rural-ish type area. There wasn't a lot of people around, I would say. But it was beautiful growing up. I really liked it. But looking back now, I see that I was like super alone all the time. Like my mom was the breadwinner. She was breaking glass ceilings before they were even like known about. She was president and CEO of several large corporations, one of which was in a factory in Harlem, New York. And like she would be up ready to leave for work at like 4 a.m, and she'd come home around 9 o'clock at night. And like
Man.
I wouldn't really see her very much except on the weekends. But when she was there, she was present. She did the best she could, and she made a beautiful life for us. But, I was alone all the time. I really don't know what my dad was doing. I know that he is an alcoholic and he was in treatment when I was younger. You know, so, I mean, I come from a long line of alcoholics. This isn't, an accident. But around the age of 12, I don't know what happened. I really can't pinpoint anything that happened because, like I said, I mean, I was well liked. I had a good group of friends. I was athletic. I was in like the school's ensemble playing flute. I was like second chair. Like I was doing a lot of stuff. I had a lot of good friends. I was living what I would think is like a normal American life. But when I was 12 years old, something happened, and I don't know, it had to be chemical in my brain, because that's when I would lock myself in my closet and start cutting. I was cutting my arms. And I looking at it now, it's like I did it because I wanted to feel something other than what I was feeling in my head, but I couldn't explain it. And I didn't tell anybody.
So, like with most instances, well, most people who go down that path of start cutting, usually it's from some type of traumatic event that has happened, a loved one that's passed away, or something that has traumatically changed you. And there wasn't anything like that for you.
No, there was nothing. Like, it was just maybe like a slow trauma, like maybe because I was alone all the time. I was in my thoughts a lot. Like I was left to my own devices to create in my mind, and I don't know. There is no reason. Like I have never been, like up until then, like I had never been abused. I'd never been molested or anything like that. My parents are wonderful people. I love them very much. We have a great relationship today. So there's nothing there. It's just me being a depressed little 12-year-old without knowing what else to do besides put a blade to her arms. And once people started noticing that, because I did not, a lot of people are like, oh, it's a cry for help. And I'm like, nah, get back. Like, I'm going to move this so that no one sees it. And that continued for a while, actually. And then I ended up being really, really good at competitive swimming. Like, I was recruited onto this year-round swim team near where I lived, and I did it. I loved it. Everything was great. The cutting slowed, almost completely stopped. And then I got accepted onto the national team for our area. So it was the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. It was very, very exciting. I started training, in the mornings before school, after school. I was like 16 or something years old. So like I felt very like, oh my God, why, like, is this real life? And I was just training a lot. And I think that gave me the release that I needed, that I was getting from self-injury. Like the better I got, the more relief I felt, because that meant I was working really hard. And then 9/11 happened. I was in 10th grade. My mother was in New York City in the building next door to the first tower.
Man.
And her trauma is insane. The way that she tells what happened, I can barely listen to it.
Yeah.
It's horrifying, and I'm not going to relay any of it here. My trauma from that is mostly just not knowing if she was dead or alive. You know, all the cell towers were gone because we lived close to Philadelphia. So we're like 2 hours from New York, so we weren't like right there. But I mean, it was pretty damn close. And the fact that I could not get in touch with my mom, my dad was freaking out. And while my dad and I were on the phone, I was in the cafeteria trying to figure out what my mom was going to watch the second tower hit on TV. And I just lost my shit, you know. My dad came to get me. We went home. My mom apparently, I told you she's like breaking glass ceilings before they were glass ceilings. This woman apparently gets in her car and starts leaving, and they have all these barricades up and police so that you can't leave the island. And she's like, nope. And she got out of her car. She said that she moved all the barricades and just like went, and she like left. And I can see her doing that. I was like, oh my God. When I look at it now, I'm like, you would tell the police, like, where do you think you're going? And she said, home. Like, bye. So luckily she made it. It was great to see her. I have never felt so relieved in my life. And she had like a coming to Jesus moment, I like to call it, because she was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to be home with my daughter because I wasn't there for so much. And she's like to my dad, like, you need to find a job now. Like, so he picked up a job in DC with the Army. And so we moved in summer between sophomore year of high school and junior year of high school. And like, I had been going to the same school since pre-K, like up through 10th grade.
Ooh. So I imagine that was kind of rough.
It was crazy. I was like, okay, I'm going to meet all new people in high school.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I was like, well, I have to swim, right? And I tried out for this team just to try out, just to see what would happen. The coach was like the former Olympics coach for so many years for the U.S. women's swim team and all this. And I got on, like, they wanted me. And I was like, let's go. What? I'm on the U.S. national team. What's going on?
Man,
it was
cool.
Amazing. And
that's
so
cool.
as you can, so I barely even made friends at my school because I was always swimming. Like, I was at practice like 4 a.m. to 7:30, and then go to school, and then I leave school at 3:30 and go back to the practice place at American University and like swim until like, and then do weights and medicine balls and all that until like 7:38. Go home, eat, you know, this whole deal.
So,
and
so during all that time, were you still cutting any, or had it come to a complete stop?
It came to a complete stop because, you know, I was getting the relief I think I needed by working so hard. I was working my body so hard, like doing 30-pound medicine ball training for like an hour before getting in the pool for like 2.5 hours, where we were just like killing our bodies. And, you know, I was so strong. I love the tangible results too. It was just really cool. I was fascinated with the sport, and I still, like, the whole time I didn't believe that I belonged there. I didn't think I deserved to be on the team. Like, my whole team, I would say 90%, no, I think 75% of my team were going to Olympic trials. I wasn't. Like, I would say that I looking back, I belonged there, but I was like the bottom of like the best team in the country. So, I mean, I was still good, but I wasn't going to trials or anything, which was okay. I mean, I was content with that because I was doing the best, you know, I was doing the best I could. Even though I was never good enough, I still, it always pushed me, you know. But this is where the word that I loathe came into my life, and that's potential. I was told every day by my coach that I have so much potential. My mom would say, yeah, you've got a lot of potential. You've got so much potential. Everyone kept telling me I've got potential, which in my mind means you're not good enough try harder. And every time I would do something like a good grade in school, like I graduated high school the top 10% of my class. I graduated with honors. I had like this whole fancy thing, and I really pushed myself to the limit. Everything I did, like there was never good enough. And you know, that still remains today, but I'm a lot healthier about it. But I just like every time I would do something really good, my mom, you know, she would say, I'm really proud of you, but here's something you could do maybe different next time. So it was
always something else.
There was always something like I had never heard, like, I'm just really proud of you.
Yeah.
Ever in my life.
There's always been something else attached to it.
Yeah, like even in band, like you did really well. Maybe next time, like, don't fold your legs under the chair, or like, you know, it was always something. There was always something to say. And so I was always thinking that I always had to do something different, try harder. Nothing was good. Like I needed to always be going better. And so that's what was drilled into my head for my whole life. There was an instance when I was a senior in high school where I was invited to a party. And I was like, holy cow. Oh my gosh, I'm going to go to a party. And like, I knew from movies like She's All That and Can't Hardly Wait and American Pie that like there's drinking at parties.
Yeah.
And I was sitting with a group of girls that like did take me in as friends, but they were not swimmers. They didn't do athletics or anything. They were just really nice girls. And I was part of their group, I guess. And they were talking about who's going to bring the ice luge and who's going to bring a keg. And I was like, what's an ice luge? Like, that's a sport. Like, what's going on? Winter Olympics, here we come. And I didn't know it was like an ice sculpture that chilled a vodka shot. Like, we were in high school. Like, who's getting ice luges? I don't know. So, that was like that was like a Monday morning. We were talking about it because the party was Friday.
Yeah.
And everyone's like so excited and like, what are we gonna wear? But I'd never drank before like that. Like I'd had sips there here and there. My grandfather and my dad would give me whiskey like it was nothing as a child. Like it wasn't a big deal. I'd sip my mom's wine here and there. Like literally no one cared. But I never like drank. So
that's kind of interesting that you were around it. You're just kind of a normal thing for you as a kid, but then here you are going to a party and it was kind of it was something different for you. That's interesting.
Yeah, because the thing with my parents was always like, oh, like it's just a sip, like it's not a big deal. But like they wouldn't give me my own drink.
Okay.
So I like at this time my dad wasn't drinking. I knew where the liquor was. There was some whiskey left over and it was super dusty. So I went down after my parents went to bed and I grabbed this bottle. I poured an entire pint glass of Maker's Mark and I got, you know, a Diet Coke and went up to my room and I shut the door and I locked it and I, you know, was in the dark all by myself. I put my earphones on and I started to drink. I took a sip first of the Maker's Mark and I was like shuddering. Like I remember this whole situation plain as day. Like it happened yesterday. I just remember that like first like warmth and goosebumps all over my body. And I like that feeling. Like I couldn't fucking breathe. And then I was like, that was gross. Let me get my soda. And so then I took another gulp and I took the soda and they mixed really well together. It had this like really caramelly, well, vanilla like feeling. And then I felt like for the first time in my life, I got the hug I never got. It gave me the I'm proud of you that I never ever heard before. I felt free for the first time in my life, that my brain wasn't beating me up, that I wasn't being told that I had potential, that I could just be. I relaxed into my bones for the first time. I was comfortable with who I was. It wasn't, you know, trying to be somebody else. I was just Katie, and it was a relief. And I fell into that, and it was so nice. I got in my bed, I put on some music, and I just I was warm and I felt so good. And then I started feeling fun,
That's amazing at how all these years since then you can still remember that
Yeah.
exact moment. That's
Yeah. And it's funny
that's
because, like,
amazing.
I really like ice cream. I really like pizza. I super like cheese sticks. But I don't remember my first ice cream. I don't
Yeah.
remember my first pizza slice, and I don't remember my first cheesesteak. But I will always remember my first drink or my first drunk. I will always remember it. And I
That's
remember,
that's amazing.
yeah,
That's kind of a very deep impression that
well, that's
that,
what I was always chasing, was that feeling of relief, of peace, of calm, of my brain shutting off, depression leaving, you know, the ability to just be myself, which I didn't necessarily know who that was. Um, it was amazing, and I loved it, and I wanted that for the rest of my life. And then, I started feeling silly, and I started dancing, and I was just like singing along to songs and just
yeah.
having fun. And then I started to feel sick, and I don't remember anything. But when I woke up in the morning, I was on the floor covered in vomit. There was an empty glass of Maker's Mark, which means I drank the whole fucking thing. That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
I couldn't move. Like, I wanted to die. but
So
I,
did
but
that
I,
keep
but
you
I, oh
did that
no,
keep
I
you
was
from
like,
drinking again?
no, it was fucking worth it. Every second was worth it. And I even had a fever. I gave myself acute alcohol poisoning, and no one knew it
Man.
because um, no one knew I was drinking. My mom, she was like, "Oh no, you have the flu. Let's, keep you home and I'll take care of you." And I was like, "Fuck yeah,
Yeah.
this is great."
Yeah.
And I was ready, I was all better in time for the party. And that first party was great. I overdid it, but
Yeah.
before I overdid it, I, I had so much fun. I played quarters, I played beer pong, I kissed a boy, I danced, I felt a part of. For so long I didn't, because I like weird stuff. I'm into the macabre, I'm into the darker things. I really like metal. I really like
Yeah.
really have that, like, I love EDM music, like the house music and trance music that has those really deep bass drops. Like, I just love the feeling of intensity, I guess.
Yeah.
And like, no one else liked that stuff. Everyone was into, like, Backstreet Boys and
In sync.
Hanson and NSYNC, and I liked Marilyn Manson and, like, Pantera and Korn and Rob Zombie, and like, it
Yeah.
wasn't popular, so I would like not tell people about that. And like, I really liked dark things. I loved horror movies, and like,
Yeah.
but that night, I felt a part of, like, I could just be me, and like, people were cool with it, and they were like, "Wow, you're cool. We didn't know that about you." And I was like, "Oh, it's because I'm swimming all the time. It's fine." Um, but I had a taste of, like, freedom again, but I had so much fun. Like, I was
Yeah.
laughing and, being part of something bigger than me, and I really liked it. I'm gonna fast forward to college.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I didn't really drink much after that experience in high
Okay.
school. Maybe once or twice more, but nothing major, because I really was focused on swimming. I really wanted to do well in my sport, so I took it
Yeah.
seriously. I ended up going to college for swimming. I went to Bucknell University, Division I school in like the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. There's like Amish people around and stuff. It's a really good engineering school. I hate math and science. I'm not good at it. But they also had like a really great art history program randomly. So I was like, cool, I'll be an art historian. We'll do this. And I was swimming on the team, and I made a bunch of cool friends. Like, I got a boyfriend who was not a swimmer. He was very, very cool. He had tattoos, and he played the guitar, and he worked at the local coffee shop. Like, I still think he's a great guy. Like, I fucked everything up. Like, he was wonderful. He still is wonderful. I'm sure. I don't know. But I went out to a party when I wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to be like in bed for practice the next morning, but I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go to a party at the football house that I heard was happening. I'm going to go with these other friends I made. And so that's what I did. And I got drunk, and I fell and I twisted my ankle so badly. I couldn't walk. I just laid in the middle of the street at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't get up. I was calling my mom, and my dad and my mom were like literally just laughing super hard because like they didn't know the seriousness of it.
Yeah.
This is the first time their daughter calls home drunk, and they're just dying. They think it's the funniest thing ever.
Yeah.
They
don't see how the seriousness of it.
They don't see the progression. Okay, Alcoholics Anonymous teaches that alcoholism is a progressive disease, and my story is a perfect example of the progression. So I can no longer swim. I'm off the team. I hung up my cap and goggles for good. And suddenly, who am I? What am I? I was Katie the swimmer for so long. Like I even had a nutritionist that I was taking in 6,000 calories a day in order to maintain the weight that I was at. Like it was serious. It was a really big deal.
Yeah.
Like professional athlete practice status is like what we were doing. So now I didn't have my same friends because they were always swimming together. I wasn't with them. I didn't have friends. I didn't know how to eat. I didn't know how to be social. I didn't know anything. So I stopped eating. I started hanging out with all the people that were drinking all the time. I started trying to find affection, and I wanted affection really badly. I just want to be loved, right? So I'm like leaving my relationship, seeking affection from other men. I would never like cheat on my boyfriend. I just wanted people to like me or something.
Yeah.
I just wanted to feel like wanted. So whenever my parents picked me up, it's when I discovered like anorexia, and I was obsessed. It was really bad. I was on these message boards, like Blue Dragonfly or whatever the hell it was, and just like constantly it took over my life. My parents had dropped me off, like I was 140 something pounds of pure muscle, tan, fit. And they picked me up. I'm like literally gray with like purple under eyes. I was 105 pounds and barely could walk. Like my muscles like completely deteriorated, atrophied or whatever. They pick me home and I get worse. I'm sliding under 100 pounds. Like it got really bad. I end up getting admitted to Shepherd Pratt's, which is a psych hospital here in Towson by Baltimore. But we were living down south by DC at this time. And they admit me there. I'm there for a few months. I can't follow rules to save my life, so I'm constantly getting privileges taken away. Finally, I leave. I gain some weight. I go back home. I lose it all and more. My parents are terrified. I ended up going to another treatment center in Philadelphia for eating disorder.
What was causing that weight loss?
I was anorexic, so I was like super restricting my calorie intake to a point that was very unhealthy. And anytime I went over that, I would purge, so I would make myself throw up. I never ever binged. It was like super weird.
So it wasn't anything with the alcohol during this time. It was just
I stopped drinking because of this.
I got you. Okay.
So I like to think that my addictions are like a whack-a-mole game. So like when my my eating disorder like is super high, like the other ones are kind of quiet.
I got you.
And so I went to another treatment center. I came home. I was pretty strong. I was feeling good. I decided to go back to college because that's what we do. We go to college. And so I decided to go to American University because it's close to home. My mom was working as a professor there. It was great. I joined a sorority. Like I did the whole thing. But what happened was I decided to go out with some people that were like real, I don't know how to describe them. there was something about them that I wanted. They were mysterious and they were beautiful, and they just seemed older. Maybe they were by like a year, but they weren't like older. But like they were like fancier or something, and like they invited me to go out clubbing with them, and I discovered my new favorite thing in the whole world. And I was going to VIP tables with all the alcohol I could ever want or need, and I'm being photographed for these like DC like fancy people magazine, and like I don't even know.
Yeah.
And I was just like in this new world that I wanted nothing else. This is all I wanted. And so I did anything it took to make sure that that happened. But then I'm out at a club with like the son of the Israel's, what's it called, official rabbi, and like we're drinking, and he pulls out a white powder, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And so I do a line of cocaine, and I never wanted to feel anything different than that. And like from the first day that I ever tried using coke, I was like super addicted. That night I spent every dime I had on 2 8-balls. Like, what am I doing? Why was I buying like 7 grams of cocaine the first day I've ever tried it? Like, man. I don't know how to slow down. And so
you
like
jumped in there, just
yeah, and like I had my own apartment at this point, and like I was having people over, they were bringing their own shit, I had mine, I was very friendly, I was sharing, everything was great, I had lots of friends. And then suddenly like less people are coming over, I'm starting to lose friends, I'm stopping telling people that I have what I have. I had this boyfriend who introduced me to this woman, and she was like, I don't know who she was. She was an Ecuadorian woman who was getting kilos of cocaine and heroin, and I was helping her bag it up. Like her very minimum order was like, I don't know, something like 10 grand. So I'm like packing up these amazingly huge things, and she just let me have whatever I wanted. So I was like a cocaine werewolf. I was like like I was crazy. I was wearing like a cowboy hat that says I love Jesus on it. It was glow in the dark. I was wearing giant sunglasses everywhere I went. Like literally just rocking back and forth, like trying to have conversations, not being able to. I wasn't really eating. I went to freaking class. My mom was, like I said, a professor at American University, and she was the only teacher of this one subject that I had to have for my major. So I'm like in her class, and I show up this one day with my cowboy hat, I love Jesus, big giant glasses, booty shorts, Ugg boots, and a tank top. And meanwhile, it's like 27 degrees out, and there's a snowstorm that I had walked through to get to class. I didn't bring my backpack. I didn't bring my computer. I didn't bring any notebooks. I'm just sitting there like
I'm here.
Yeah, my mom like literally stopped class and asked me to leave, and was just like, I don't know what's going on, but you have to get out of here. I was like, bye. And it just kept going. It kept getting worse and worse until like I had a gun on my head, and I actually pulled the what's this part of the gun called?
The barrel?
Yeah. The barrel. I pulled the barrel, and I was like holding it against my forehead, and the guy was like, I'm gonna shoot you. And I was like, just fucking shoot me then. Just do it. Fucking shoot me. And so he did. He pulled the trigger. It didn't go off. When I hit him, he drops the gun and it goes off.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm out. So I ran, and I had someone following me running, but I was a scrappy little thing. I was running. And I was running and running and running and running. I don't know when I stopped, and I don't know how I got to where I was, but God saved me that day.
So of all these situations that you found yourself in, would you say that was your rock bottom, or
no? I haven't even gotten there. My
Man.
rock bottom didn't come for like so long. Like I ended up going in treatment in Newport Beach, California. I was in like an $8 million house on the beach. There was only 6 women there at a time. We had a masseuse, we had a live-in chef, we had, yoga people, and It was amazing. I actually met my first sponsor there. Her name was Molly. She was like 6'2", bright red hair, always chain smoking with a cup of black coffee. And she would wake up, I would wake up every morning and come downstairs and she'd say, Kate, how free do you want to be? How free do you want to be? And I was just like, I don't know, man, but I have it tattooed on me now. I got it tattooed on me in like 2006. And that became it's become one of my very favorite things, because I understand it now. I didn't understand it then. I didn't understand what freedom from self meant. I didn't know what freedom from bondage meant. At that point, I only knew freedom from my problems, and that always came in the form of a bottle or a drug.
Yeah.
So I ended up it was a long-term program. I was there for a few months. I got kicked out because I couldn't stop drinking. And they sent me to another rehab facility in Mississippi, and that was not on the beach and it was not wonderful. But it was like more militaristic, and I do really well with like hard rules. I do really well with structure. I think it comes from swimming. I just really I like it when people are kind of rough.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's from all my coaches, I guess.
Very, very rigid.
Yeah, there's set expectations. You know what to do. I loved it. I was there for like many months. That place had like a step system, but by the time I got to the third stage, I had my car, I had a job, but I still lived on campus. But I was going to this meeting house. I met a guy, and like I really liked him. He really liked me. We were kind of together. I want to make this really clear though, because I was doing all this stuff. I was going to meetings. I had sponsor. I was doing this, but I didn't want to be sober. I want to make this clear because I don't want people to think that the program doesn't work. I didn't work it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be sober. If I did, I wouldn't be going to these meeting houses looking for dudes. I would have been looking for a solution. So I looked for a dude, and we ended up, going out together. It started with a beer, and it ended with me alone in a motel room, like carpet surfing for crack. My teeth were black. All of my teeth were just black. My hands were sweaty and covered in black from the oxidation from the copper that was in the stem. Man. I couldn't breathe right. I was puking up blood. And this was from my very first experience with crack. Like when I smoked that first crack rock, I was like, the angels have come down from heaven and filled my entire body. And they're flooding their little wings and they're giving me peace. And like, I was literally like crazy from this point on for like a while. I got kicked out. Let's just put that out there. I got kicked out of that rehab, and I got sent to the state-run facility in Jackson, Mississippi for people like indigents and stuff. Oh yeah, I traded my car for an 8-ball crack. I don't know where my car is at this point. Like it was
you
bad.
just went on down.
I go because I go hard. Like, I don't just fucking do things lightly.
Yeah.
I go hard in the paint every time. So anyway, I'm kicked out. I'm in this like literally state-run facility. Like everyone's either coming there from jail or from the streets. And I'm just like, what's up, everybody? Hi. And I couldn't do what I wanted. I ended up like my eating disorder came back really strong while I was there. But this place was co-ed, but we weren't allowed to like fraternize with the guys.
Yeah.
But I saw one guy, he saw me, and we were just like, ooh, I like you. Meanwhile, we hadn't even spoken words to each other, but he sent a note over to my side, like he put it inside of a football, and I took it, and he's like, do you want to get out of here? I was like, sure. So I packed my stuff, and he like came back. He left, and then he came back in someone else's pickup truck with a suitcase of natural light and like a 36 box of Natty Light.
Yeah.
And I get in the back of his friend's pickup truck with my, and he hands me a natural light, and we crack it open. And then the next 4 years of my life were hell from that point forward, he and I were together 24/7, homeless in Jackson, Mississippi, and surrounding country town Terry, Mississippi. And we did.
I don't know if you know this, but this podcast, we're here in Mississippi, in Meridian, which is just.
Oh my God! I worked at the Buckle in the Ridgeland Mall, and I worked at Backyard Burger in Byram.
Okay.
And I worked at Majestic Burger in Flowood.
And everybody who's listening, I want you to understand that what she talked about with the natural light and hopping in the back of the guy's truck is a very Mississippi thing. Like, if you were to say anything about Mississippi, that would be like the most common, but that's the most Mississippi thing anybody could say, probably. Like, that's very believable.
We rode, to this guy's house. And we had the garage open and sat in the garage, smoking cigarettes, drinking Natty Light forever. This guy's wife made crock pot cheese dip, and that's what we did. And then he had an old mobile, like an RV, like a Winnebago type thing.
Yeah.
That was on the back 40. And, I'd never heard that term before. I didn't know what that meant. But what I knew is that's where we were going to be staying for the next, until whatever. But it was really cold. And, I wasn't used to this, I guess. But I would become used to it. That night we went back there, and I'm not going to give his name since we're where he is.
Yeah.
Literally. Yay.
We will observe the rules of recovery, and we'll maintain anonymity.
We'll maintain his anonymity for his sake. He asked if I wanted to go get high, and for the next 3.5 years, that's what we did. We were homeless. We were staying in abandoned places, squatting in houses, living in people's barns, living in lofts. He built this crazy loft in his parents, back in the barn, with an old dirty mattress. And, up there I would drink 24-ounce cans of Natural Light that had been sitting out that had a cigarette butt in it in the mornings, just so I could make my hands stop shaking. If I didn't have alcohol in my system, I would start to have serious withdrawals that would have probably killed me had I not gotten another beer. And, that started to scare me. And
so you're still doing the crack at this time, or
are
you just back on that? So
yeah, we're definitely we're just smoking crack, drinking beer. There was one instance where we actually were able to we lived in a mobile home, and I was really happy that we had a place, and it was $350 a month, but we couldn't make rent. Because our habit was too intense. He had a job, he was an electrician. I worked in fast food, and we couldn't make enough money to keep a roof over our heads. But there was this one time we were gonna go mudding or whatever the hell, and we were on the 4-wheeler, and he's going with his friend and his friend's girlfriend. So it was a couple's mudding adventure. Yeah. And so we're on these 4-wheelers getting all dirty and shit. And the other girlfriend, she's into this. She really liked it. And she was so pretty. She had big boobs, a big ass, tiny little waist, just bright red hair. And here I just felt so disgusting next to her. And we ended up, breaking into someone's house and eating their hot dogs, which was super weird. And unheated up. There was no one in the house. We went in and literally opened a package of hot dogs and just ate the hot dogs. And then, we went back to our mobile home estate, and Anthony, and he asked the couple to stay over the night because it was late. They were drinking, whatever. So they go to their bedroom, and we start smoking crack, and I start being you just want them to stay so you can go fuck her, right? I shouldn't have said these things. So I was just like real jealous, and I hated myself really bad. And I remember very clearly, he took his cigarette out of his mouth and he stubbed it out in this like crystal ashtray, and he picked it up and he threw it across the table and it hit me straight in the head. And I flew backwards in my chair and I was like, what? And then the worst night of my entire life began. It was at least an hour and a half of him beating me, telling me how he wanted me to be dead, that I didn't deserve anyone else but him, that no one else would love me, that I was a piece of trash. And then he was like punching me, kicking me. He threw my head through a window, like pieces of my scalp and my hair were stuck in the glass. He was kicking my kidneys until I couldn't breathe. And then I think he like felt bad and he like put me in the bathtub and he was trying to like wash me off or whatever. And I guess like he had hit me with my phone too, because he was like, you're obviously seeing someone else. I'm going to go through your phone. And because I was 100% obsessed with this guy, I wasn't like, I obsess over things, including my partner. And like, I loved him very dearly. I was obsessed and codependent and completely enmeshed. It wasn't love, but at the time I thought it was. And like he threw my phone at my head. I had huge cuts in my head. I was bleeding everywhere. I came out of the tub and I laid down on the bed, and then he proceeded to rape me, like right there. And he was beating me with his belt while it was happening. He put me back in the bathtub, and then I laid back down on the bed. And I guess my neighbor heard us, because why wouldn't she? It's a fucking mobile home. We're made out of paper.
Yeah.
And the police came, and I came to, and I was looking around, and like the bath water was red. There were bloody handprints all over my bed. I was naked, you know. When someone came in, a police woman came in. They had to wait. Apparently they were waiting because they needed a woman cop. Yeah. And so she came in and like they assessed the scene. He had handcuffs on. I go to the hospital. I'm put into like a medically induced coma. And when I finally was able to leave, my parents took me home. I would say it was about 4 days later, I had purchased a Greyhound ticket and went right back. And spent some more years down there. And we made a lot of bad choices and decisions. We were robbed a lot. We got, you know, we ran cons on people. We stole so much. If you had an open garage during the day, we'd take in your Husqvarna chainsaws and your lawn mower and your trailer off your truck, go out to another county and sell it.
Yeah.
And it was just a miserable life. We ended up having to there was an intervention with his family and my family, and they literally separated us. They came to this like abandoned house. It was like seriously falling down in Jackson, Mississippi. And they separated us, and I never went back. And I was so obsessed with him. I still was like trying to get back together and all this. He got a tattoo of my name on his chest, and like, it's like, what are you gonna do about that now? He's like, I don't know. I recently found out he's in jail for doing the same exact stuff that we were doing. And I feel bad for him today. I just really feel bad. I mean, now that I've had my coming to and realizing that this isn't the way to live. But like, that wasn't even a rock bottom for me. I just kept going. I couldn't stop. My parents had moved to Texas, in the hill country near Austin. And I was just, I decided to go to Texas State in San Marcos, which by the way was the best school I've ever been to, education-wise, which blew my mind, because I've been to Bucknell and American University, which are like expensive private schools, but like the big state school provided me with amazing education. I just have to toot their horn for a minute, because they're not just a party school. They fucking kill it in education. But like the same thing, I just wanted to get high and I wanted to drink, because I just wanted to escape what my life was becoming. I had been gang raped at this point. I had been taken advantage of. I'd been beaten to a point of almost dying. Like, I no longer had any self-respect, and I no longer gave a shit about anything. Like, I didn't even care anymore. I would do whatever for whatever at this point.
Yeah.
And so I, like any good fucking millennial drug addict, I get on google.com and I'm looking up where the highest crime rates for like drug drug arrests and gun violence. And I like Venn diagrammed everything and like Excel spreadsheeted, and I found one intersection where like the most happened. I was like, I'm gonna go there. And so I did, and I met this guy named T.
I met another guy.
And yeah, no, this wasn't like a boyfriend guy.
Okay.
This was like a dealer guy.
Okay.
And I actually became really good friends with his girlfriend, and like I would go over because he ended up getting arrested, but like she had all the supply anyway. So I would like go over to their apartment and hang out with her for a little while. I'd spend $700 and take my stuff. I would get like a week's worth, but then I would just do it all in one night. And like I couldn't, we could see my heart beating out of my chest. Like I just couldn't stop. If you gave me something for a week, it'd be gone. Like there was no stopping me. I was stealing wine and liquor from my parents. Like I couldn't deal. But I would do shit that was crazy. Like I wanted to get a job at the police station on my school, like on my campus. So I did. And I smoked crack one time in the police station because I wanted to see if I could. And I did. I made a cop fall in love with me. And like I smoked crack in his house. He had no idea. And like he told me I could use his car for something. So I did. I took it. And his car did not come back the same, unfortunately. And it was like a BMW with like camel colored leather seats, and they were colored with blue ink because a pen exploded when I was trying to press like scrape the Brillo. And like I'd spilled beer and there was no more power steering. And like
Man.
yeah, I just left it and then walked home. And then because I couldn't, and ran out of gas. I was like, okay, bye. Obviously we broke up. And you know, it just kept going. It kept going. It kept going. Eventually I met this guy who happens to be my husband today. And he was worth quitting for. I quit using any drug, anything for him. I loved him. And then I knew for the first time what being loved felt like. And it wasn't what the guy from Mississippi did at all. That was my benchmark for what love and relationships look like. Because I'd been with him for almost 4 years, and I thought that's how it was. But it wasn't, and I learned. And I still have problems today. Whenever like if my husband like is annoyed by something, I'm like, oh God, like, okay, we're gonna get a divorce. Like this is how I'm gonna like deal with the kids. And it's not, and I'm like, I go there because I'm afraid that he's gonna like be so angry, but like literally he doesn't even flinch. And then he'll say he loves me after, and I'm just confused because even like 8 years or 7 years removed, I'm still just like so scared.
Because that's what you were used to, and that's kind of what you resort back to.
Yeah, it's been like kind of ingrained in my mind. But like I was talking about the whack-a-mole, without any drugs, my alcoholism skyrocketed. But this time it looked different. I wanted to be a good wife. I wanted to be a good mom. So I was like, mommy wine culture. I hid behind that. And I drank wine. And I drank a significant amount of wine. I stopped buying bottles and I started buying boxes because you can't see. And then whenever we moved to Baltimore, which was almost 5 years ago, you know, this liquor, it's not a liquor store. It's like because there's no liquor or beer or wine in grocery stores here. But there's one like right next to the grocery store that I go to, and they had like amazing sales on black box wine where there'd usually be like $26, but like some days it'd be like 15. So I'd buy 2 and then hide them in the house so that when one was empty, I'd replace it and no one would know, because my husband would sometimes, I see now what he was doing, but he doesn't like wine. He would like, I'm going to have some wine tonight, and catch me off guard. And I'm like, shit, there's not much in there. I just got this. But then I decided to do this. So I was never afraid of being caught. And I started buying bottles, like cheap bottles of vodka, and I'd hide them in the laundry room and in places where I knew he wouldn't go. And so like throughout the day, I just go in the back, pretend I'm doing laundry, and just take pulls from the vodka bottles, because I started not being able to function without it. Waking up in the morning with sweats, shaking, cloudy mind, panic, take a pull from the bottle and suddenly I'm fine. And that was scary. I don't need to get into much else except for like I've definitely been arrested. I definitely spent time in jail.
Well, Katie, I'm pretty sure we could spend a whole another hour talking about more of this crazy stuff. Talk a little bit about.
I'm going to talk about my coming to and real recovery. Here we go. Yeah. So my last drunk was at plant night with some friends from church. We went to do this thing where you arrange succulents, and I got hammered, and I drove home in a blackout. Must have gotten in a fight with my husband. I woke up the next morning to my middle son crying because he said that daddy told them last night that I'm going to die and they need to prepare for it. And they need to be ready. And that was my rock bottom. I've been through so much, and that was the thing that broke me. It broke my heart. It broke my spirit. It gave me the desperation of a drowning man. And I reached out my hand to Alcoholics Anonymous because they were there and I knew what they were doing. And I wanted it more than anything. And I went to that first meeting, and the people there made me feel welcome. They liked me for me, the real me, not the me that I had been presenting. They held my hair while I threw up into a bucket during the meeting because they didn't want me to miss a thing. Yeah. Even though I was puking. And I went to a meeting every single day that week. And I found a sponsor, and I have successfully worked through the 12 steps, but I work them every single day. Like every single morning I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm an alcoholic, and I need to just admit that and be like, that's just how things are. And then, I thank God, like I said in the beginning, I thank God every single morning. Every morning, the first thing I think is, God, thank you for waking me up. Thank you for my children, and thank you for my husband. Thank you for the Alcoholics Anonymous program for saving my life. I do.
I think you made a good point about you have to work your recovery every morning. I think anybody who has any amount of successful recovery has to get up every morning and work their recovery. I don't think anybody that has successful recovery, I don't think anybody who has it doesn't work it every day. I think you have to.
No, I think that once you stop, things start going wrong. And every day I'm working my recovery. Every single day I'm doing Instagram stuff. Every single day I'm, on the phone with my sponsees. I'm keeping my side of the street clean. If I mess up, I apologize and try to make it right. I'm always up for service. Like I keep service front and center in my life. I do what I can every single day to help somebody that needs it. Whether it be someone suffering with an eating disorder, alcoholism, drug addiction, I'm there because I've been there. I can show that there is, as long as there's breath, there's hope. Yeah. My mom prayed me here. I believe that. She never ever gave up. And every time that she would tell me she's praying for me and I would brushed it off, today I'm so grateful because I'm here happy. This is the thing, I'm content. I always thought that happiness meant complete jubilation, overjoyed, ecstasy, all the time. Yeah. I never knew why I wasn't happy. I was never really happy until I came to be sober in a recovery program that works. It's given me my life back in a way that there's always these quotes like, getting back to the way it was before. I don't ever want to be that person. I never want to go back to the way it was before because that hurt. And that's the reason why all this happened. I want to go back to a new version of me, the me that believes in a higher power, that talks to a higher power throughout the entire day. I call my higher power God. I talk to God all day long, every day. I call people and check in on them. I make sure that they're doing okay. And if they're not, then I sit with them until they can calm down and say, I'm going to be okay. I talk with people that are very strong in their recovery programs just to see what they're doing so that I can try to add that into my life. I am present with my children every single day. And then especially in this Corona, I'm helping them with school. I am suddenly a homeschooler. I am present with my husband. they never experienced this before. I'm here. I cook dinners every night. I play with them. I am running this little, Instagram thing that all I do is give back. Like it's the whole thing behind On Becoming a Useful Human is to share my experience, strength, and hope with the world, with the hopes that someone hears it and gets the message that, yeah, you can go through all this crazy shit and you could have guns to your head and you could be in abusive relationships and you could do everything and anything to get your next hit, your next drink, whatever, but you can have peace. Like every day I wake up, I don't have to even worry 1 second about where anything's coming from. All I have to worry about is my side of the street and keeping it clear.
Yep.
And all I have to worry about is making sure that my family's happy or content. That's the thing. Contentment is way better than happiness, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like I can live every single day content. I don't have to be wildly like jumping up and down off the roof. Like if I'm content, then I'm happy. And that's new and frankly amazing. And,
Awesome.
There's disappointments. Once you stop drinking and you get into recovery, like that does not mean that everything's gonna be so easy.
Yeah, exactly.
But the way that
people have that mindset of, okay, I'm
you
sober.
have to work.
Yeah.
It's hard and it sucks sometimes. And I know like going through something very difficult, you can go through it. You don't have to numb out. You don't have to escape. You can handle it. And that's the thing that trips me out. Every single time something crazy happens and I'm like strong, and I don't freak out, and like I help people through it, and I'm the one that's got the level head. And when it's all over and done and I'm just still here, I'm always just like, whoa, who am I?
Yeah.
And it's just so cool. I think that sobriety it's like the biggest gift I've ever given myself. It's the biggest form of self-love, but it's also the biggest gift I've given my family. They no longer have to worry about me.
Well, so something that I've gotten as a reoccurring theme across your story is you have several times have made mention about searching for peace, chasing peace. And it's amazing how that's been so recurring through your story. And then at the end, you have found sobriety, which is the end all to peace. I mean, that is peace, and you're living that. If you have
living it today, it's trippy. It's real trippy to be able to sit with myself and not hear voices that say you're a piece of shit. Today, my voices are more like, hey, let's do this really cool idea that I'm coming up with. Or, hey, let's like design these t-shirts for Mental Health Awareness Month and give away all the money that you make to a charity. Like, that's what I'm doing.
And if that right there is not a message of hope for somebody listening who is facing their rock bottom, then I don't know what is. That right there, that's it does get better. And Katie, as much as I hate to, I've got to start wrapping this up. I want to thank you, Katie, for coming by and for sharing on such a great story. Your story is so amazing, and
thank you.
I just want to.
I'm unashamed.
Well, hey, that is great, and I want to show my appreciation for you coming here and for being so open and so vulnerable. And I want to just give you a few moments of an open mic. My show is yours. You have the chance to say anything that you want to say to that one person who may be listening that needs to hear what you have to say. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to say, hi, you're not alone. You may be feeling like the end of the world is just falling at your feet and nothing is going right. You may be in such immense pain that you don't even know what to do with it. You may be thinking that death is the answer, but you are so important and you are so worth it. You are worth more than the next drink or the next drug. You're worth doing the work. It might be hard, But as long as, as long as you're alive, you have hope and you have an access to freedom. You have the key to the prison because you made it. You made this prison around you. So you have the key to unlock it. You have the key to walk out. You have the strength. You have the ability to do the hard stuff, because once you're doing that, it gets a little easier and you'll suddenly decide to see that you want to do it. And you'll feel the peace that I've been talking about. And it will be overwhelming, but it will be beautiful. I think that the main thing I want to get across is that it's never too late. And you're not by yourself. You are not alone in anything. And just reach out. Just reach out your hand and say, I need help. You'll be met with a hand that's been there and can walk you through it.
That's right. That's a great word. And if you're out there and you don't see a light at the end of your tunnel, that is a great word of hope that Katie just shared. And Recovery family, that winds it up for another episode of Unashamed. I hope today's episode has shined some hope and encouragement for you. Don't forget that you can always join the recovery conversation with us on Twitter. You can find us at Unashamed Podcast. That's Unashamed Podcast. And you can also use the hashtag Recovery Posse. Hashtag Recovery Posse. And you can connect with thousands and thousands of other people in the recovery community worldwide. And guys, if you want to be a guest on the show or simply tell us how we are doing or ask us a question, you can send us an email at unashamedpodcast@yahoo.com. Once again, that's unashamedpodcast@yahoo.com. And if someone wants to reach out to you, Katie, or maybe book you to speak at a recovery group or to be a guest on another recovery podcast, what is the best way for somebody to reach you? An email or maybe a social media page?
Okay, I think the best way to reach me would be on my Instagram, which is @onbecomingAusefulhuman, and I have an email that is becomingausefulhuman@gmail.com. So yeah,
Great.
those are probably the two best methods.
All right, that sounds great. And with that, y'all, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for your continued support of the Unashamed Recovery Podcast. And I hope that you all continue to stay sober. And until next time, I love y'all. And remember to be unashamed.